In this lesson, we'll be learning how to use compositing tags with reflection planes. Okay, so what I've done here is gone ahead and done a quick little render to the picture viewer of what we're looking at in our viewer right here in our perspective view. So this frame is what you just saw in that picture viewer, and what I want to kind of outline there is that if I scrub over here to the edge, you can see that we have a reflection plane on this side. So basically it's being reflected from this viewpoint, but because we want to use a camera that has this very interesting kind of dolly effect, whenever we get to this other side, the plane is viewable, and really that's not necessarily something I want to render into my shot. So if I do another quick render from this perspective, you'll be able to see that that plane is over here in the corner. So obviously not a very pretty picture whenever that's visible. However, whenever we're on the other side, it gives us this nice little reflection right here that we're seeing. So if I come over, just let's say we're back over here, and we're wanting to look at this side and see, you know, how much of an impact is that reflection making. Before we add any kind of tags to change anything, let's just see what the render looks like if we turn this off. So it's no longer visible over here. We're solving that problem, but also we are going to end up with the issue of it not showing up in our reflection in our render. So let's see what that looks like from this perspective. I'll go ahead and hit Shift R to render that view as well. Okay, so as you can see, if we compare with that first render we did, it is making a really nice impact on our render just by adding a little bit more definition and just a little bit more just realism to having this kind of over here on the side, just making this metal feel more reflective with that little bit of reflection. So it's something that I would really like to keep. However, I'm not interested in having this in my image. So we can use a compositing tag to get rid of that while still keeping our reflection that you see right there. So let's go ahead and figure out what we need to do with our compositing tag to make that work for us. So I'll go ahead and close out of our picture viewer, and really all we have to do is select the plane that we want to apply that tag to. We'll go ahead and turn it back on with those little stoplights, and I'll go up to Tags, Cinema 4D Tags, and choose Compositing. And then we're going to come over here and look at some of these options. So there's more really that we need to do besides just leaving on the scene by reflection, because we know we want it to show up in the reflection, but I don't necessarily want to uncheck everything else, but there definitely are some things that I need to uncheck or we're going to have a problem. So first of all, I don't want this to cast any kind of shadows. So the lights I have in my scene, if they're catching this and casting shadows, that's not going to work for me, because if I'm not seeing it in the render view like this, the shadow is not going to make a lot of sense, at least in this case. If you had it closer and you wanted it to cast this shadow but not to show up, you know, it's going to be a case-by-case basis that you decide what you're checking in your compositing tag. For me, definitely don't want to cast those shadows, so I'll go ahead and uncheck that. I don't want it to receive shadows either, and I don't want it to be seen by the camera. That's the main thing I'm trying to achieve here. Now that seen by camera is unchecked, we won't be seeing this in the render. Now when we come over here, I don't really have any kind of transparency or refraction, so I'm just going to leave them checked on for now. However, I do have reflection, and that's the main one we want to keep on. That's what we're trying to preserve. That little reflection of the plane in the metal is what we want to keep. That's why we're not just turning it off. Now, seen by ambient occlusion, we definitely want to turn off, because I don't want to get a little line of ambient occlusion on this ground plane because of this particular plane that kind of intersects that. So now we have those boxes checked on our compositing tag. Let's jump back over to the beginning of our shot and do a quick render. So I'll hit Shift R. And as you can see, we still have our nice little reflection here. But did we achieve our main goal of taking the plane out of our render? Well, to be able to see that, we'll have to scrub to this last frame where it is visible here in our perspective view. If we hit Shift R, let's see if we can see it in our render. And I'll just go ahead and pan over to the side, and sure enough, you can see the difference. Our plane is gone, but from our last render, you can see we still are getting that reflection. So perfect. We've achieved really essentially having our reflection in one area and not having the visibility of the object casting it in the other. Kind of having your cake and eating it too, so to speak. That wraps up our materials course for just lighting and rendering things and editing your materials here in Cinema 4D. It's a lot of really good tips if you're primarily a motion graphics artist and you want to know how to make those materials look better for those types of projects. But really any kind of projects that you're working on in Cinema 4D that require materials and lighting are going to benefit from some of these tips. So thank you so much for watching, and good luck in recreating these effects on your own.